Thanks for joining us on YouTube here. We have an unknown opponent, but it's soon to be found out that it will be Grixis Death Shadow. And we will be seeing how to beat that deck. So, anyway, we see this land. The following is double land, sleepy. This is really optimal. This is like when we built this deck, we're playing a control shell, which you can find on Steam Decker. The link's down below in the description. So this is really our ideal scenario start, and it's slow, and it's supposed to be slow. So it's Sleepy turn 1, Bitter Blossom turn 2, turn 3, Counterspell, Spellsearch Sprite with a removal or 2 and something else to do. Some kind of utility. So we're happy with this, but we know it's slow. So what we really don't want is them playing like a Ragavan here. But taking a hit off a Ragavan is not the end of the world. What is bad is if the Ragavan sticks around for 3 or 4 turns, 3 or 4 hits, and then that's more of a problem. But I'm okay with taking 2 hits off Ragavan. It's the 3rd and the 4th that's the problem, in my opinion, through my testing and countless games against it. So we see a Watery Grave. Here's a Thoughtseize. He takes Blossom, which is the obvious choice here. Okay, if anybody has seen any of the other Death Shadow videos that have come up, and there's plenty of them, go back and watch. If I put a Bitter Blossom down on turn 2, we will win the game against Death Shadow. So him grabbing this card is perfect. So we still think he could be on anything. We're only seeing Watery Grave and a Polluted Delta, so he could be on Dimir Control with Ring. He could be on anything right now. So and then we see the Grixis comes out. He's double. So this is one of the biggest reasons. This is the main reason right now Preordain is bad. Okay, is Orcish Bowmasters is here to punish you. So we're going to punish him for this. So we're going to take him down to 10 life. Now he kind of likes this because he's playing Death Shadow. So getting below the threshold of 13 life is really good. He then Unholy Heats it, which is fine too. But the thing is he's tapped out now. He can't do anything. And we have this on board. So we have to decide what we want to do. We get another Sleepy. We play the other Sleepy because we want to be... We could do it 2 ways. I can hold up Snare here, which he has 2 mana, so the odds of him playing a 2-mana spell or even land a 2-mana spell is pretty good. So we're kind of playing variable here. We don't know exactly what he's playing, so we think he's playing like Grixis Morningtide. I haven't seen if he's on Death Shadow, of course, yet. So he then pains himself even more to 6 Death Shadow. So we obviously can't Spell Snare. He then Ragavans, Preordains. So we have an option here. So we don't get our 3rd land, which hurts. Don't get me wrong. We give him a choice to Edict whatever he wants. He chooses to keep the Death Shadow, which is fine. It's kind of the obvious choice, I think. And we just kind of sit on it. We sit on the blocker here. But we're okay with this. He's not really going to do much. So we do have to worry about like Temur Battle Rage. That's really about it. He then Expressive Iterations. We don't care about this card at this point. He's just trying to dig and try to, he's trying to dig, trying to find something to do something. And because he knows next turn that we're going to have lethal, we're going to have a 2/2 and a 3/3, and that's going to be no-go. So what you're seeing here is this is a clear factor of people not reading the card. And this is why Sleep Curse Faerie is amazing. And you will get free wins because of it. You'll also, with these decks that are low land counts, see this a lot. you'll see it, and if they don't misplay it and the ward 2 counter it completely, then what you'll see is it's going to take their entire turn to kill this fairy, you know? So, and we're happy about that. We're happy in a lot of ways, because if I would have lands for some, say I had 4 lands out, okay? And he bolted this to do it, and say I'm tapped out and I can't respond. Okay, and he kills my Sleep Curse Fairy. Next turn I just snap and Edict his Death Shadow away. And then I hit him for 2, I'm at 4. And I have a 2, you know, I have a Sleep Curse Fairy that's tapped with, you know, 1 counter on it, and a Snapcaster Mage out there with a 2/2 Orc, you know, that's going to hit again. So next turn I have lethal with Counterspell, Spell Snare up, and swinging for lethal. He has 5 cards in hand. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a great scenario to be in, which I'm very happy with. So our opponent just doesn't read the card. He misplays. This, you're going to see this happen all the time. This has happened to me dozens of times already. They just forget. It's because nobody's playing this card. So it falls off. He plays the land. We get another Spell Snare. We have 2 land. So we attack for 3 in the air. We're happy. We're happy with this. We got the Infinity blocker right here. This guy looks like Thanos, kind of uglier face. But so here we go. He's at 11 now. We then untap. And then we have this, you know, we've been caught at 2 mana, but he's unable to deal with all this stuff. And then he flooded out, and he probably finally deal with one of these, but now he has to deal with 2. So, and now I can just swing out. But I choose to swing in the air, just in case something like this happens. So he does this again. This is exactly what we want. We let the ward hit. There he goes. So Sleep Curse Fairy is punishing in 2 ways. One, if our opponent does not flood out, he spends his entire turn to get rid of Sleep Curse Fairy. 2, which we can't count on this, number 2, is our opponent misplaying and just not counting the amount of mana he has to be able to take care of Sleep Curse Fairy. Okay? The third is, even if he bolts, even if this is successful here, okay, and I just let it happen, I still have Counterspell, I still have a blocker, and I have a Sleep Curse Fairy for next turn. You know, I'm very happy here. And I can still Edict this, and we're good. So anyway, we win. We take the win here. We go to game 2. So I have high regards for Sleep Curse Fairy. It has done well with me in past. I like it in tempo. It is better in Control Shell. It is better when you have time to be able to time and the resources to manage it correctly. I'll say if you do start playing it, expect to change your play style a little bit to change in the way you play fairies. Very similar to when I added Bowmasters to the deck. You also have to change. You have to change your play style with Bowmasters in the way you play. You just have to. It's just one of the things about the game. So we don't like our first hand. We don't really like our second hand either. Our second hand, we don't have much going on. So he Thought Seizes our March away. And then we get... We're thinking, do I Tar Pit? Do I Darkslate? Well, it really depends on what we draw. This is going to be our big thing. So we draw land. So because we draw our 3rd land like this, we actually don't play Tar Pit. Okay. So again, here Preordain would be slightly better, but I think we've shown many cases in the past that this would be about the only time it is better. You know, it's just this turn 1. I give that to the argument of the people that say that, hey Skunk, You know, why don't you play Preordain? Is like this because this is the only occasion really that I see that is advantageous. Now there are a few others, and they're here and there, but for the most part, this opt at the end of turn is going to be infinitely more powerful than the Preordain will be. So he DRCs, he bobbles. This is where we're at on DRC right now. Is DRC is coming online with Delirium on turn 2. There's no way around that. It's very good. It's very hard to stop, and a 3/3 on turn 2 is something to worry about. So we opt. We see Sleep Curse Faerie. We want that in our hand. We're good with it. So now we have a choice. We have a bobble that's going to go off. He knows our next draw. Okay, so he knows we have Sprite in hand. So we have a choice here. We can Sleep Curse Faerie, hold up Sprite, or Counterspell. I choose Sleep Curse Faerie. He hasn't really started anything. We know we're on Death Shadow, so we know he has to get below 13 to get a Death Shadow out and really start what he's trying to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to up our Faerie count. We're going to then play Tar Pit. And then we're just going to move on. We're going to concede basically his turn 3. Okay. And because he's probably playing Preordain over Consider and things like that, because he's doing that, he can't opt at the end of turn or Consider at the end of turn. So he's just kind of chilling there. So he then obviously shocks. He's learned his lesson from the first game. He has learned. But he's also learned that Sleep Curse Faerie, if left alone long enough, will turn around and bite him. So he'll go ahead and put this instant in there. He'll kill our Faerie, and then he will get Delirium and swing for 3. So, you know, the reason why I did this is, like I said before, is he chose to give up his entire turn to be able to take care of that. Now I can untap, play a land, and have things to do. You know, that's significant. So, and life total wise, now granted, he's Death Shadow, and he's going to try to get 12 as fast as possible. You know, think about the other scenario. If that was any other creature, he bolts it, and then plays 2 other things. You know, or 1 other thing, like 2 Death Shadows. Like, we're coming out far ahead by stalling him a turn. So the only thing I have to worry about now is Force Negation coming out of his hand, or some kind of, you know, pitch elemental, which won't happen because all the pitch elementals that he would play would be subtlety or nothing, which gives me the opportunity to edict his DRC. Okay. So that whole exchange, yeah, he paid his entire turn to get rid of that, but we're even now. And he untaps, so he dashes here, which we're fine with the dash because eventually Sprite's going to come online. We're going to be untapped, and we'll be able to take care of it. So, and the thing about Sprite is it can't be Force Negation. So if he's tapped out, Sprite's going to be good. It's going to be solid. It's one of the best things about Spellstar Sprite is it gets around Force Negation. So we play land. So we have a choice here. We have 4 cards in our graveyard, but we want Counterspell up. Okay, so we're gonna opt not to tap out here. Okay, even though this is gonna be a pretty big. It's gonna be a 6. Yeah, this would be a 6/6 Morningtide. So it's gonna come down with a vengeance. It's gonna be good. So we choose to pass the turn. We don't want to tap out. We want to keep up Counterspell, keep both of these up. We also know he has a Ragavan in hand, so this is going to be good. And then we can protect it. So he has 4 cards, we have 3. He preordains. We allow that to happen because we know he has Ragavan. Like, this isn't like him drawing him using that extra mana doesn't mean much because we know he had Ragavan in hand, so we're taking care of this. He bolts. We protect the Sprite to counter the Ragavan. He DRCs, but now we don't care. So, and now the extra counter spell in our yard allows us to do two things at once. We can bounce his DRC as a tempo play, and then control play to the Morningtide for 7/7. Like, that is a huge swing. That is a huge swing just because he chose to preordain. Now, I don't know if he has counterspell in hand or not. I don't know what he has in hand, you know, but those things at events basically are putting him behind completely. And like I said before, if we get a turn 2 Bitter Blossom, we're ahead in this game no matter what. We haven't even seen Bitter Blossom yet, you know, and we're already taking care of all this stuff. So we Morningtide, get this thing. There's things he can do, don't get me wrong, but not today. So he draws, sees nothing. He sees we have 8 power on board, and actually we have 11. But what he doesn't know is we're not going to fire this up. We'll take the slow game. But, you know, Morningtide wins. It's powerful. I mean, there's a whole deck that runs its way around it. So by being patient, by not overextending yourself, by constantly getting your opponent to overextend and then capitalizing on that, we can make our opponent play in such a way that they are doing the things they don't want to do, and then we're outpacing them basically and throwing down bombs exact time when they can't handle it and go through all their resources as such. Sleepy does that for us. I can't express to you enough how Sleepy turns our opponents and makes these bad interactions, whether it be misplay or anything else. Okay, so it causes misplays. It causes players to have to play a different way, but also it also causes us to play a different way as well. So you have to be willing to adjust your own play style to get these results as well. And also adjust your deck building a little bit as well. So anyway, that's all I got. Check me out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. You help the channel. For sure. So I will see you next time. So have a great evening or day or wherever you are in the world.